In today's video, we're going to see some geeky tricks to design better and to choose our tiles. Let's get started. I'm a bit of a geek in this sense. I like to make sure of things. So I have a series of little tricks that I use in stores, and they've always worked really well for me when it comes to selecting materials. So I wanted to share them with you because I think when it comes to choosing or creating a design, they'll be really helpful for you. So let's start with the first one, making a mood board on the spot. Let's put it that way. And what I do instead of making one, well, normally I make a design on the computer, but before making that design, I really like to combine textures. So what I do is place one texture over another and close one eye. So you see how they mix and how they combine with each other. This helps us a lot, not only to combine textures, but also to overlay furniture. To place a piece of furniture, position it in front of a wall and close one eye to visualize how it will look. And if you do it in proportion, you can get a bit of this dimension and composition and visualize it much better than if you just look at it next to it. One thing from the other, and that's it. Now, this trick works for me personally. You can try it, and if it works for you, that's great. And I think we can achieve cool things using this. The trick of closing your eye isn't just something we have to do physically. I mean, taking the material, closing your eye and comparing it. But I often do it, even with my phone. I look for a photo of something I like, I place my phone, and then I close my eye and combine it with what I have behind. And honestly, this works really well for me. It could be phone with wall, phone with computer, and that way I can combine the textures and colors. The next point would be the topic of online selection. Many times we like tiles or furniture or whatever, but we've only seen them online and we don't really know what they're like. Especially when it comes to colors. For example, tiles, micro-cement, all these kinds of materials that we don't see in person. At the same time, we can request samples, since many companies have samples and will send them to you. But in case they don't have them, or if there's an extra cost, having these samples. What we can do is a little trick, and that's when we have it. On the computer, it usually looks much brighter than it really is because the computer itself emits light. And so it appears lighter with more pastel colors. What can be done? Well, basically tilt the computer screen back. If it's a laptop, tilting the screen is fine, but if it's not a laptop, tilting the screen might break it. But, well, if it's a laptop, we keep tilting it back, and then we'll see that the screen gets less and less bright. And we can see more of the real color, in this case of the tile, the paint, the micro-cement, or whatever we're going to select. And we can visualize in a much more realistic way how our space is going to look with that tone. We could also lower the computer screen brightness. That's the other option. But if we don't want to complicate things or we don't know how to lower it, since many times it's kind of hidden, we can simply tilt the computer screen back. And then we would get a much more accurate color. Looking at more than just the screen's own lighting, we would get a more accurate result, though not perfect. The third geeky trick, I'll call it a geeky trick from now on, would be to create a mood board on the computer. But often the programs are a bit complicated. We're discussing Home by Me, a very simple tool I use for this entire program. But if we don't want to complicate things too much and we don't want to create a 3D plan, but rather something much simpler, we have two options. The first would be the classic paint, which comes with the computer and you don't have to install anything at all. We look for it, we search for paint, we open our little program, and we also go to the application search and type the word crop. Then we go to the image from the internet that we saw, we use the crop application, and we crop that photo. We press Ctrl+C, go to paint, press Ctrl+V, and paste our photo. And now we have a first idea. We can add a lot of things to that. Following the same steps, we go to the snipping tool, cut out other images, and keep pasting them one on top of the other, moving our mood board and adjusting it to fit our composition. I think I haven't explained what a mood board is. And it's basically a combination of textures to create a composition that's as realistic as possible. And that way we can see how the different colors and styles fit together in our space. This works really well and is used a lot in design and interior decorating, since it lets you visualize a bit how the space will look and how the colors will go together. This mood board we've created with paint, which is very simple, could be made in a slightly more complex way, but with more options. With Canva, which is a good program, well, yes, it's a program, but it's online. Simply sign up for free, no downloads needed, then just cut and paste as usual. But in this case, we have more options, right? So we can work much better with it. It's more intuitive when it comes to moving things around. And well, anyway, we would have these two alternatives, using Paint or using Canva. The fourth geeky trick would be, how well are our tiles cleaned? As a title, if we have doubts about whether a tile will be cleaned or not. In fact, I mentioned that I did this at the store when I chose the tiles for the new bathroom. And the thing is, many times, both with bathroom tiles and outdoor tiles, there are no doubts about how they're going to be cleaned. Especially the tiles that have textures. Sometimes we just use a mop or wipe it with a cloth, and it can feel rough and kind of sticky. So it makes cleaning a lot harder. How can we tell if these tiles are going to be easy to clean or not? This trick is quite odd and may draw strange looks from others if performed in public. So try to do it around noon or when no one is around to see us messing around. The thing is, we bring one of those little spray bottles that you can buy anywhere, and we make a kind of messy mixture, right? Well, cocoa powder with oil and a little bit of water. We pour it on the tile when no one is watching, a bit sneakily, and then we take a cloth and clean it. In the shopping mall, there's no better way to know how clothes will be cleaned than by cleaning them before buying. So, this is basically the technique I use. I bring a mixture, use it, and that's it. We're not going to get too carried away, really. I mean, there's no need to cover the whole tile. If we just dirty a small part and see if it cleans well or not, that's enough. This is especially important when choosing tiles for bathrooms or outdoor areas, because those are often the ones that tend to have this complication when it comes to cleaning. If you get scolded at a shopping mall, I don't want to know anything about it. The next point would be showers that are integrated into the floor, meaning showers that are at the same level as the floor. Often the same tile used for the rest of the floor is used inside the shower, but what's the problem with that? Could the floor tile be slippery inside the shower? We could solve this easily since there are sprays you can use and, well, they create a film on top and the tile stops being slippery. But if we don't want to complicate things so much, we can just check in the store itself if it's going to be slippery. It would be similar to what we discussed earlier, but we would bring a small water bottle instead of a mixture. We wet the tile a little and then run our finger over it. And just with that little trick, we can already tell if, when that tile is wet, it's really going to be slippery or not. It wouldn't just work for the inside of the shower, but it would also work, for example, for the outside. When my grandmother chose the tiles, she picked some that are really slippery, and we've had more than one mishap with those tiles. So I think checking whether they're going to be slippery or not is essential. The next geeky trick would be the topic of indirect lighting. I've said many times that I'm a huge fan of indirect lighting. I think it creates a lot of harmony, it's very practical and very luxurious, but indirect lighting can be really tricky. You have to be really careful because depending on how we place the tiles, it's going to show all our mistakes. So do you have to be careful when placing the tiles? If we place them ourselves or if someone else places them for us and they don't do it perfectly. I mean, if we have a wall of tiles and we put a mirror that lights up from behind, if the tiles aren't placed properly, the lighting will reveal it. So what can we do about each and every flaw we have? Well, what I usually do is go to the hardware store, take a flashlight with me, and go to the panel where the tiles I'd like to put in my bathroom are displayed. I take my little flashlight and shine it across, kind of sideways, so that all the flaws show up. And that way you can really check if these tiles are going to be a bit uneven or not. I mean, if they're tiles that already have texture or different reliefs, it won't be as noticeable. Your flaws, because the flaws in the tile itself already draw enough attention so that yours don't stand out too much. But what if it's a completely smooth tile? Most likely when you shine that light on it, you'll see the flaws that might be there. And that's going to give you a sign that when you install it yourself or someone installs it for you, it's going to show any flaws we might have. Normally, tiles that have textures, reliefs, or are handmade help us a lot when it comes to installation. If we don't install them properly, the flaws will be less noticeable. And especially if we're beginners or if we haven't installed many tiles in our lives, this will help us and give us a hand. That's why we often choose this type of tile, because if you don't install them perfectly, the flaws won't be as noticeable. And the last nerdy trick I can give you, which in this case isn't so nerdy, maybe it's more strategic. Would it be about the tools and how much electricity they use? I mean, if we're going to do a renovation, we usually need to use a lot of tools, and some of these tools use a lot of electricity. And you'll notice it as you're doing it, let's say. So what can we do? Some companies, like mine, allow me to do it, but I'm not sure if all of them do. And it's to select 2 hours when electricity is free for you, or a whole day when electricity, well, is free. So what we can do is organize our work in such a way that during the hours when it's free, we use these machines. For example, we need to sand some doors, and the sander or the hot air blower use a lot of electricity. So we'll wait for those hours to do it, or if you have a specific day, then we'll do it on that day. For example, in the apartment we're currently renovating, since I'm working on it on weekends for now, it's really convenient for me to have a whole day for free. The electricity, because it allows me to use these tools. Since I don't do it during the week, I would do it on Saturday. It would be much more practical. But if it's a renovation that we're going to be doing day after day, maybe we're more interested in having 2 hours free each day. That would be an option. The other option would be to use a solar light machine in this case. On the channel, decorate it yourself. We've made some videos about solar energy, solar power stations, and the truth is they're really great for this kind of thing. In case we need machines that consume a lot of electricity for a season, this type works really well for us. Maybe it's not necessary to buy them. Maybe a friend who has a camper or really likes to travel and has this kind of machine can lend it to us for a while, or ourselves. Well, if we want to make a long-term investment, not just for the renovation, but also because later on we want to convert a van into a camper. And in this case, buying ourselves a solar power station, maybe we can buy it a little earlier and use it for the renovation. It's just so you keep it in mind, because these things might not occur to you at first, but in the long run, you start to notice them. And well, these are some of the tricks I use to design and to choose tiles. I hope you found them helpful. See you in upcoming videos soon.